Assalamualaikum and a very good evening, everyone. Welcome to PD Talk Series 2022 on marriage decisions among youngsters. Surprisingly, today we have a TV and film scriptwriter in-house, and she is a lady who have a great general knowledge and very suited to be our guest and talk about marriage trends among the young.
Ladies and gentlemen, we presenting to you a beautiful and wonderful lady, Miss Christina Orow.
How are you?
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you. So, Miss Christina, what do you think about the chosen topic? Do you feel excited or 50?
I love talking about this kind of stuff. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Miss Christina. It's what I said before. Such a lovely lady, isn't it, guys?
Yeah. Getting the love of Johnny Depp, our PD coach, Maidin.
You should have said that.
Aksan.
Miss Christina also sharing it. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell. Great. I cannot wait.
You had one beauty for them today is marriage decisions among millennials. I do, I might, and I won't. We want to discuss more about marriage trends among the young since it is quite alarming among youth nowadays.
Miss Christina, perhaps you would like to share what currently are you busy with doing right now?
I'm currently a head writer for a production that has not appeared yet on TV. It won't be on TV. It will be on View, which is a streaming platform. And we're currently in production. So we are delivering. And it will be scheduled to be out, I think, August, but that depends on people, not myself.
Right. So perhaps we can kickstart session. So basically, this topic tonight is on the new trend, the current trend. I think this is not just happening right now. It has been happening probably in the last several years before, where the young generations, they prefer to marry or settle down at a later age. So in fact, statistics shows that there is a huge shift in the age of marriage in Malaysia. I think it's quite normal. We hear it in developed countries, in America, in other parts of the world. But in Malaysia, usually we marry at the age of 20, 21, 22, 23. I think that's quite for girls, okay? But today, we're looking at 30s. So in your, as Malaysian also, I believe you're Malaysian. Why do you think this shift is taking place? This whole idea about late marriage.
I think it's a circumstance that's not only happening in Malaysia, but regionally, as well as, of course, overseas, like internationally. But I think there are a few factors that really make a difference. One of which is education. More and more women are getting educated. More and more men, of course, are getting educated, but women are becoming more and more educated. Therefore, spending a lot more time on their education and careers. And marriage can be something that stops the education from continuing, or even the career from continuing. So it becomes a sunken cost to apply yourself to education so much, only to find that marriage might stop it, or kids might stop it. So depend, in my opinion, on your family or your spouse, how supportive they are of your career if you get married. Right. In which case it might not apply so much to you. But I think generally, if you are studying, say, to become a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or anything that requires more than 3 or 4 years of work in university, you kind of lose all that if you feel that marriage will stop you from continuing.
Right.
So whether that is really the case or not, I really feel that is something that each individual, their circumstances apply. You know, it's not
Right.
it's not something we can just assume, but I think it's a general feeling that if you marry as a woman, for example, you take on responsibilities that might stop you from continuing your education or your career.
Right.
That's one thing. I think also less and less people are feeling like I must get married young so that I can continue to have children and grow the family. And, you know, people aren't thinking like that anymore because we're not living an agrarian life. We're not suffering from
Right.
young death and stuff like that. I mean, short lifespans and stuff like that. So perhaps better living conditions.
Right. Yeah.
To a certain
So,
extent.
like for tonight's topic, probably it looks like we're focusing on women because of the pink color and the flowers, but really this is only a reflection of my student host being all girls team. But we're really looking at both genders, the boys and the girls. From my experience as someone teaching in the university, I see the ratio of girls and boys coming to university. It all depends on the course that they're doing. But for hotel and tourism, usually we receive more girls, definitely, than the boys. But then when I do keep in touch with my ex-students, then I see them getting married, right? You know, on social media. Oh yeah, happy, blah 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 blah, and then they just, you know, end up being a housewife. You know, they're, despite whatever degree they have, but the boys continue, of course, you know. So it seems like pursuing education or, you know, a degree is more useful for the boys instead of the girls. So what is your take on this? Is it necessary for girls to pursue higher education when eventually they'll end up becoming a housewife?
I think education, you know, at the very least, every person should have an education at least until 15 or the end of the high school age, because I think you cannot do without that kind of basic education. It's unfortunate that not everybody gets that, but I think that it's empowering to everybody, regardless of gender, to have the kind of education you get. I'm not saying that the education is perfect, but it's a stepping stone into accessibility to different kinds of jobs and, you know, things like that, being able to step off on the right foot when you start your career or start working. It may not suit everybody. Some people do not need a higher education, but if they have a passion for something, for example, vocational work or work that doesn't require, you know, specific studies, that's great. But a lot of people don't see that as an option, unfortunately. There are many ways to get forward in your life. But I think that having the very basic education, for example, learning how to understand ratios and statistics and basic understanding that allows you to understand information that you will get as a person. Yeah, I think that's, it helps very much. When you bring up, you know, whether or not, let's say, for example, tertiary education, further education. So education that would come if you don't get married young, for example.
Right.
So after high school, do you work? Do you marry? Do you go for further education? When it comes to boys and girls, why is it that marriage might be a block to more women rather than to more men? To me, that's cultural stuff, cultural assumptions, family assumptions that can support certain people, but may not help other people. So there are, if you're a very independent young woman, for example, you might feel very burdened by expectations from your family. However, if you don't feel that burden from your family, it might be very helpful to be married while having a career and studying and all that kind of thing. So why is it that more and more people are not marrying anyway? I think that part of it is presumptions and stereotypes, and also you kind of get stuck into, you start studying, you have the opportunity to study, you have the privilege of going to further education, and you go along that and you meet other people who are like-minded, and marriage is not on their minds. It's not the first thing anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's just circumstances. And in general, more people have access to education or different choices. They're not stuck only doing, I must follow in my father's footsteps, or I must take on the farm in the future, or my father is a shoemaker, I learned to make shoes from him, or something like that. There's so much choice.
Yeah.
Which means you have, and also quality of life and better, let's say, like lifespan. You feel like you have more time, I think. So I think what we'd like to find out is, why do people choose not to marry, even if they might be able to continue continue working or having their education at the same time?
Right.
Thank you so much, Madam Azwin and Miss Christina. Actually, honestly, both of you guys had already cracked open the door for our discussion for tonight, actually. So I'm just gonna try to push further the door. When you and Madam Azwin, Miss Christina and Madam Azwin were talking about stepping on the right foot, making choices in getting married while you're still furthering your studies and all that, about making good choices. And even some of us might as well experience stories that they wanted to continue the studies, but eventually their wings are being clipped, that sad story. But however, tonight we are trying to have an exploration in this topic. So I would like to ask on your opinion, because in my circle of friends, there's some of us that already started planning and eventually getting married, and some of us are being affected negatively by their decision of getting married, because right now, we're still studying, and we have the fear that their plan on getting married eventually influence our flow in our studies. So do you actually have an advice, not saying that you can't get married, no, just an advice how they can balance your choice to get married, your personal choice of getting married, and how it will actually affect us when you're still studying? So Miss Christina.
Okay, I think this is something that is very much about what you feel your role is amongst your friends. So if I'm correct, you're saying that there's a group of friends, let's say there's 10 of you, 2 or 3 of you are getting married, and the other few are feeling pressured or feeling like the dynamic is changing because now they are not single people, but have other obligations.
Yes, it's true.
You could say the same of any sort of family unit. So for example, in your family, why would a parent get mad if their child suddenly announces, I don't want to marry anybody and I'm going to tell the world? And why would the parent get upset? Because one, they feel like they may have failed their duties in the face of the world or in the face of their own family or in their own beliefs. They feel that they might have failed somehow. 2, they feel they don't know you anymore. Who is this child who doesn't want to do what I want to do for them? And, it comes back to this thing of what makes, it's a bit like being able to separate yourself from the people that you love. So, you know, a teen that's very embarrassed about their parents, one day they suddenly realize their parents can be quite cool, actually, because they meet somebody that they respect, and that person they respect sees their parents and goes, wow, your parents are cool. And suddenly the child goes, oh, they're not my mom who's embarrassing me. They're another person with their own life, and what they choose has got nothing to do with me, even though we're related and they brought me up. And to be able to balance that thing of feeling responsible for somebody else or responsible to somebody else with your own personal desire to be yourself is a very tricky thing. And I think that this is a question that every individual has in their different circles of life. So in their own family, in their circle of friends, between them and their spouse, you know, a lot of people feel that they're responsible for other people, but you ultimately are not. You are ultimately not responsible for the embarrassing thing that your spouse did or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't control them. You cannot take on their problems, really.
Right.
You can support, you can love them, you can help them, but in the end, if they fail at something, they fail at something, or if they succeed at something, they succeed at something. It's got nothing to do with you. So being able to separate yourself from the collective mind of your group and accept that change in dynamic while also wanting the best for the other person means that you're able to see things in a much more neutral way and put aside feelings. So I'm not trying to say you need to squash down your feelings and not acknowledge them. I think it's possible to be able to say to a friend, I mean, this is the ultimate, right? It's the ideal, to be able to say to a friend, I don't really like it, but I'm here for you. It's very hard to get to that point.
Right.
It's very hard to be like that because sometimes the other person is not ready to accept even that. But I think that ultimately that would make things easy for anybody to really feel relaxed about who they are within their circle of friends. And even though the dynamics might change, you can still value what you have now and have it be valuable in the future, even if you don't hang out as much or whatever. You know, I think it's possible for friends to come around back to each other again and not feel like they betrayed each other just because they left the table for a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yes, it's true.
yeah, I think it's a matter of each individual within the group being able to acknowledge their own feelings. Don't ignore your own feelings. They are true to you, but to be able to see it in perspective that it's, you know, nothing is fixed. And so while I can understand that you might, let's say, for example, all your friends are getting married and you're the one who doesn't want to get married.
Yeah.
You know, who is pressurizing you? Is it them? Is it you yourself? Is it society? So if it's them, perhaps, you know, you need to take a step back.
Yeah.
Because unless
Because,
you're going to do everything that is expected of you, which I think is very unrealistic. People need to follow their own desires and wishes and stuff. So
because you know, sometimes their decision into getting married during their studies, you know, somehow they didn't notice, but we do not want to tell them like, excuse me, your action in marrying now is holding us back. Like, we don't want to say that because everyone knows the truth hurts, but people want to know the truth, you know?
right. So you mean that it's actually having a very, it's having impact on your studies, your own studies.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not just a matter of, oh, I'm feeling like I should get married too. or people think that I should get married to.
Not that.
It's a real impact on your studies and how you move forward. You know, I don't think that's anything to do with marriage, actually, because you could have that with somebody who has an addiction or something, or bad follow through or something like that. So that's something that really needs to be addressed. And I think it's got nothing to do with marriage. But I'm sure that anybody who is affected in this way by marriage must have very strong opinions on marriage impacting, you know, education or your lifestyle or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems like education has, in many ways, opened up those close-minded way of thinking, you know, like in the past. Like we have this idea that, oh yeah, women should get married so the husband can take care of you, you know. But today it's like, no,
No.
you know, I need to be financially independent, you know. I gotta like, so I can get married and I can get out of marriage whenever I want. You know, they sort of like have this very strong mindset about nobody can control them. So what is your opinion? Why do you think a woman should be financially independent when there's this cultural norm that suggests that a woman will be taken care of by their husband once they're married?
I think, you know, we live in this kind of world where that presumption is there. And as somebody who is studying, who has the ability to make their own careers and ability to make their own income, hearing that can be very aggravating, because it makes an assumption that you're wasting your time looking after yourself. So I think that's the kind of thing that people say when they don't really know what else to say. I think it's kind of like a kitchen wisdom, you know, don't waste your time too much. I'd like to think it comes from a good place, but I think it's a little bit insensitive nowadays, because everybody should be able to create whatever income they would like for themselves, whatever life they would like for themselves. As I said before, I don't think it's one of those places where, you know, oh, I've been born as a farmer's son, so I'll become a farmer. It's not like that anymore, not for urban people.
Not for all the
very
digital
least.
that we have right now.
Yeah, everybody can go further than that and maybe even sustain their own family in that way, you know. It's just being able to embrace that kind of change, and some families can and some families cannot. But when it comes to that presumption of, I think you were asking about why women should even bother studying when they can just get married and be looked after. I think the problem with that is that more and more women are feeling like even if they do get married, they might not get looked after because of terrible stories that you read or hear about from your own family, where, you know, it just happens that poverty and no opportunity can create a situation where that's not going to happen. And even if she gets married, she might still have to work. But there is an added burden because of that kind of mindset where the guy is supposed to look after the girl. If she can earn more money than him, she might end up being made to feel very unhappy about it by not just the husband, but by her own family, earning more than the husband, as if something is wrong with that. So already I feel that even saying that is a very hard stereotype to break, or It's
Yeah.
hard for people, not just men, but other women as well, to get over that idea of maybe the woman could make more money than the man. But it's still new, I feel, in this society. But I think that there's a lot of people who are trying to embrace that kind of philosophy where anybody can make the relationship that they want. But I think it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's why I think, well, maybe women do pursue education, because it just gives them much more opportunity and much more personal power. If they, for example, get married straight out of high school, all they will know is being taken care of by someone. And if that person is not good to them, what's going to happen if they are lucky enough to get out of that situation? They will be like 5 years down the line, too late. It will feel like it's too late to start again. So it always makes sense to just keep going with the momentum of finishing your secondary studies and then going into tertiary studies or going into vocational studies or whatever, getting skills for some work. So we're talking about women in that sense, but I also feel that there's a lot of pressure on men as well, because men are supposed to be the breadwinners. But I do feel that, you know, sometimes you get lots of men who just want to pursue a dream of theirs. And I'm sure that if they could, they would just pursue it. But unfortunately, economics and, you know, they have to make money, and it might end up not pursuing their dreams just purely to be able to make money to support a family.
Right.
So that is a pressure as well. It's definitely there. Ideally, it would be nice if two people who fall in love or who are looking towards marriage, looking very practically towards marriage and see that they like each other, can be very honest with each other what they want and see whether they could actually live together in a way that supports each other. That requires a certain kind of communication. And in order to be able to communicate like that, you need exposure to these ideas, and education can help you get that exposure. And things like this, to be honest, this kind of discussion where, you know, you can just listen to different kinds of opinions about things and see possibilities are out there.
I'm just curious about many families at this time are getting smaller with only 2 or 3 children only. So this is very different from people of the past where they tend to have 10 or 15 children. So in your opinion, what is the ideal number of children a family should have? Do you think people nowadays choose to have 2 or 3 children just because they value the quality over the quantity? So what is your opinion about this?
I think having all those children in the past was purely survival, to make sure that at least half of them lived and were able to get married and farm and things like that.
Yeah, but they also had this idea, like they had hopes, you know, like the children was going to help them, right?
Yeah. To be their insurance.
In the later age. No.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure on the poor baby, especially probably the last one. It's a lot of pressure, and you feel like, you know, is that what I was brought on this earth just to look after somebody that I didn't know before I was born?
Yeah.
It's a real effect on the child, and some children might love it. Some children might just love being.
Why am I born into this world?
Well, you know, I've come across many children, one of my own as well, who is just extremely caring and loving, and I didn't make that happen. It came out of them. Okay, it came from them before I tried to make it happen. And you know, children change as they grow older and stuff, but being educated about how pregnancy can affect your body might be one reason why women are not having 10 or 15 children, you know.
Right.
You realize it takes a toll on their body. And it's not really necessary anymore. I don't think so. And we do have a population problem in the whole world anyway.
Yeah.
I feel
Speaking
like,
about population,
yes,
today I just saw this population study that showed that Malaysia still have more men than male than female. Malaysia,
oh,
not in Singapore, not in Thailand. There are more females in Thailand and Singapore. There's an similar number of male and females in Indonesia, in Brunei, and there are more males in the US. New Zealand has similar number of male and women. So,
All right, madam. Thank you so much for the explanation. I found it that one of the advantages of marrying late is we can have plenty of time for personal. It's allow us to chase other goals such as continue our study, starting up a business, and maybe travel across the globe. But miss, some people marry early, but they not able to conceive a baby due to their health conditions. So what do you think of marriage without children?
well, first of all, touching on what you said about, if you don't marry young, you can travel and things like that. For some people, they will only travel if they marry. So this is why I find it's very interesting. Why do women, let's say, not marry young? But then I think men are also not marrying young. So anyway, that's just aside, because I just thought, some people might not have the opportunity to marry unless they, to travel, unless they marry and either the spouse is able to take them on a trip, or they're able to pool their resources and go on a trip together and stuff like that. So it really, really depends on each person. Anyway, you were asking about people who marry young but do not choose. Either they do not have a choice to have children, or they choose not to have children. Is that what?
And we're able to have children. So it's like the marriage is without children.
Right. If it's something that they've chosen to do, then that's really about companionship and having the right person, and maybe being married allows them to be together without, problems. If they don't have a choice in having children, for example, they can't conceive for some reason, it becomes a sad situation. It can be quite trying for both of the people in the couple, because besides going through this pain together, I'm sure they would be facing all sorts of things from their community and their family.
Yeah, that's right.
And it can be very insensitive sometimes. And that already puts a lot of pressure on the couple. So if they want children and they're not able to conceive, I think it's quite a burden for them both. And hopefully that a couple like that would be able to resolve it. But if they're choosing not to have children, I think it's a great way that they can show their commitment to each other if they decide to marry anyway and just remain childless. I mean, great. They can just gabung their resources and share experiences together and keep it between them. Why not?
Like maybe if not having children, they could have pets. Like Madam Azwin, she have plenty of cats.
Cats are just like children.
Yes. Yes, she would call them babies. Babies. So Miss Christina, I've experienced, I've read plenty of news that some youngsters, some who marry at a young age, they tend to get divorced earlier than we expected. Like, is it because like they have the idea of marriage is just the wedding, you know, the lovely-dovey, the fairy tale, oh, wearing pretty dresses. But when reality kicks them back, they're just like responsibilities. No, I can't do this and I can't do that. So how do you advise them, dear youngsters? Like, how do you make us tips, tips to make us more well prepared to like what marriage is not just a wedding. It doesn't stop there. It continues.
Learning to live with someone is one of the harder things about marriage, I think. Sometimes it's already hard for a natural family, like your own family, let's say you and your parents and your family. It can be already hard to live with them every day in the same house. And learning to live with a new person with new habits and can be a real pressure on a new romantic relationship, because when you get married, if you've just recently gotten married, maybe you've only known each other less than a year. Sometimes you just don't know how the other person lives, and suddenly this person that you love so much eats with their mouth open or something, and it's something, after a while you realize, wow, there are other people in the world except for me. So marriage really is about looking at the other person. And I would say the same for having kids. You really have to understand your life is over. I'm not saying it's over and that's it and it's worthless. I'm saying that the life that you knew is over, because you cannot just, okay, I'm sick of you, and walk out the door. You cannot be like that. I mean,
I don't want delete.
Yeah, there's no refresh button or whatever, there's no going back.
I tried to cancel my pregnancy when I went into labor. I said, no, I don't want to give birth. This is too painful for me. Can I cancel it? And the doctor said, oh yeah, we can cancel it. Let's bring the baby out. You can't undo that.
Yeah, there's no undoing it. And so I guess maybe with a marriage, you can undo it to a certain extent. You can just get out of it before you have kids, or you can get out of it when it's just too much. Yeah. I think if you're in it for the long haul, if you both have a goal to be together till the end, and even if you both have tempers or something, then I think it's possible to make it work, but it requires a certain mindset. And if you don't come into the marriage that way, you might not feel that it's worth it, so you will leave. But if ultimately making the marriage work is your top priority for both of you, then you'll make it work somehow, even with the bad stuff. But if it feels like it's just costing you too much to try to make it work, like maybe you feel the other person isn't reciprocating the way you want, then calling it quits is fine too. I think it's not, whatever is going to serve your goal and keep you safe, I think is the best option. So clear communication and knowing what you want. Actually, it might be hard to know what you want. Knowing what you want is very important, I think.
I see that. I'm not sure, maybe because of the algorithm on my social media. Some youngsters nowadays are treating marriage as if it's a casual relationship. Like right now, couple, we can just break off, I'm leaving you. But marriage, you have to go through all the legal procedures. Even going into the marriage, legal procedures. Breaking off the marriage, legal procedures. So that is something that I think we youngsters actually need to think it truly. But you know, some of us are even afraid to take the big step. You know, some like we would not know like what's going to happen if we don't take that step, that first
Yeah,
step.
and you know, you could plan it as much as you want and even find somebody who is telling you, yes, I agree with you all the way, and marry, and then find out you change your mind or they change their mind.
Yes.
So
That's the biggest
there
fear.
is no guarantee. There is no guarantee. You just have to decide whether you want to risk. And, you know, why is it a risk? I think if you're thinking about your safety, if it's a risk to your safety, yeah, it's a risk. But if it's the possibility it might not work out, that can happen with a business venture, that can happen with your career. You cannot guarantee anything, really. So
Oh,
the
we have a
best
cat.
oh, hello, cat.
Yeah, I just married this cat.
Yeah, I'm sure the cat will give you exactly what you want. Obey and eat and leave when you want it to leave. And
Yeah, he sleeps with me. He sleeps with me too.
How cute.
Look at his face. He's like, seriously, mom. Seriously.
Am I being dragged to this, mom?
Thank you so much, Madam Miss Christina, for your explanation. Okay, Miss, nowadays, millennials are likely to put off getting married because they want to focus on building their careers. So, since you are a writer and a mother at the same time, so how were you able to balance between your career and your family when you had your first child?
when I had my first child, I really had no idea what having a child was like. As a teenager, I felt children were frightening. They were very unpredictable, and they said things that would embarrass me, and you know, I didn't know how to talk to them. Yeah, I just didn't understand children that much. So when I had my own, you know, it was a real wake-up call of understanding that I don't know how certain women are able to do the full career, full motherhood, and do all the stuff like the conventional being the mom and the wife. It's I don't know if it's a mental thing for me, because I believe that I deserve some rest or something. You know, some people might see that as selfish, other people might see that as, yes, you should, you know. So I found that writing was a great way to be everything that I wanted to be. The only thing was that when your kids are very young, they do not understand, I need to work for 2 hours, can you just leave me alone? They don't understand that.
Yeah.
So you need to find your way to work around that. And I found that leaving the house was the best way to do that. Luckily, I had help for them, but it became something that made me personally, I felt very guilty about, because I felt I could be at home and work. Yeah. So I eventually found some balance with that, but it did cost me my regular 10 hours of sleep at night. So, you know, I can make fun of losing my sleep and all of that, but at the same time, I loved bringing up my children. I did love seeing them grow and start to understand things. And, you know, when they start asking questions, I'm a very verbal sort of person. I communicate verbally. So, you know, I just love to hear them trying to make sense of the world. And so we became very communicative, and that was great for me. I love that. But if I was a nonverbal person and all I wanted was to be left alone and stuff like that, this could be an issue. So it really is, each individual has to find their way themselves. And if you are are able to be realistic about the person that you are, for example, choosing to spend your life with, perhaps you might see that they might not be that kind of person, that kind of support that you need. But if you are willing to give up certain things in order to receive their form of support, which could be financial or, you know, they can support you in so many different ways that you might not get in any other relationship, then it's a give and take that is up to you to decide whether you're happy with that or not. And you might not always be happy with your choice, but if you're generally happy with your choice, I don't see what's wrong with that. You know, the same thing with parenting. Sometimes you get advice that you just don't want to hear, but then it works. Or you tried something because somebody told you to do it this way. You said, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do it this way. And what you did worked. Whatever works and is right, and you'll know if it's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever is right works, is what is good for you. I think whether or not you have family around you, or you're very religious or not very religious, or you don't have advice from people, or you don't have education, you personally already know what is the right way to be a good person. People know if they've done something wrong. They don't need to be told by someone. They already know. If you told a lie, which you shouldn't have told, you feel it.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Right?
Sila terasa ya, sila terasa. Okay, Miss Christina, I just have this thoughts because I was thinking, because I was reading through some articles before, and I came across, you know, with this whole trend shifts in the way people view marriage, and this, you know, whether it's important to have your significant other, and you know, and of course we're looking at even those who marry young at the young age. Statistics shows there's a high rate of divorce, you know, even in that case. And in some nations around the world, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I read. In Japan, there is this trend. The women didn't think, they have come to this point where they didn't think having a husband is necessary. So they end up going to, you know, these special doctors where they can get pregnant without, you know, knowing who the father of the children. And then they have kids because they are basically career women. So they have money, they can raise the kid and all that. So they tend to do that. I think in many parts of the world, this is already happening. I'm not sure if I know any cases in Malaysia yet. Okay. But how important do you think raising a kid requires both figures, mother and father?
I feel like it's a very complex question, because sometimes a child will lose one parent, and the parent brings up the child with the help of somebody else who is not the replacement of the other parent. So for example, the husband dies, so the mother brings up the child with, let's say, her mother or her sister or a friend or something like that. And the child, because it is not being abused, it is being loved, grows up well. So the child might miss out on the experience of having a father, but does not miss out on the experience of growing up as a good person. So I think that new family structures can be very positive, but I don't think that everybody can accept it. And I'm not sure why, but I think it's just a general fear of shaking up status quo and things like that. And also, I'm sure there are economic ramifications of changes in social structure, which I don't know anything about. But anyway, for example, same-sex partners who adopt children, and the fear that society used to have and sometimes still has, I think does still have very much, that those children will grow up warped, when, you know, we're starting to see now that perhaps, yes, you might have that kind of relationship where they're not a healthy couple, but you can also have that kind of relationship where they're a very healthy couple. And this applies to mixed sex couples, I mean, heterosexual couples.
Right.
So within a heterosexual marriage or parent unit, you can have abusers and toxic people. To me, it's really, you really have to examine each and every relationship to see what's best for somebody. And we can't do that. So, you know, this is part of the reason why we talk in generalization and in stereotypes, is because we just cannot talk in terms of every single person's experience.
Right.
So I think that if we were able to see the benefits and give people the benefits of the doubt, that would be great. But we also need to be wary about, you know, the pressures that that kind of a new family structure might have, which is they may not get the support that they might need, or they might feel burdened by society and stuff like that. So, you know, if a woman wants to bring up a child and she knows that she cannot handle living with a man, wouldn't she be in a better place to bring up that child than if she was feeling like she was tortured by a man? You know, same with a guy. Same with a guy. It should apply all the way across the board. But, you know, how do we really do that? Even measuring these statistics, we don't know the full story of each and every person that falls under these statistics. So I would love to say, let's keep an open mind, but in the end, we have to live in a society. And, you know, it makes it hard, but it can also be very supportive to people. People do need to live in their society. And I think that, you know, if you're in a unique relationship or family, having a good surrounding is only going to be the best thing for you. So.
Right. As we know that currently we are facing the increase of household necessity that such as cooking oils, eggs, So,
oh my god.
I think raising a child will be far more expensive nowadays. So how about you? You are raising 3 children. So do you think this is one of the reason why people nowadays prefer to get married late, because they want to stabilize their financial first?
Sure, a lot of people do that. When, you know, I also find that there is a deep rationale, a good thing about getting married young as well, because you can help each other.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you're alone, so it depends on you. If you're alone and you're struggling to make money, you might still be happy that you're not married.
Yeah.
But there might be somebody else who's alone, struggling to make money, who wishes they could marry so that they could have some support. So I think it really boils down to the couple in question. You know, there's all sorts of things you can do to help yourself with all these rising prices and stuff. To be honest, I feel that it is incumbent on the community and on the government to look after its people. But, you know,
So
I don't know how it's going to play out because it's just really happened like in the last couple of weeks. I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of people are struggling already.
Oh
So, Miss
yeah,
Christina, when we talk about financial status and economics and whatnot, do you ever face this kind of struggle when you first started your journey into marriage and then having children? Do you ever face like this one time where you even have the thought of, why do I get married now? Do you ever have that thought?
No, because I felt that being married was a big support to me. First of all, I was not the breadwinner in the family. Second of all, after we got, as soon as we got married, it was the crash in 97.
oh yeah.
And we literally flew away for our honeymoon and our money meant nothing anymore. So we were like, ah. And having someone with me made me feel much better. But then again, if I was not married, I wouldn't have been traveling. So I feel you can have that kind of moment in anything that you do. So our company together, and there were times when I thought, oh, how are we going to do this? But I never thought we should close up shop because we had put too much commitment into it already, financial and time, and we were just starting to climb a hill, and to quit felt like it was just too soon. So maybe that was a very idealistic part of me, or maybe it was something very realistic where I'm already here, I should keep going.
All right, Miss. I found that one of the disadvantages of late marriage is the growth of a family tree. This is because one of the major age gap between the parents and their children. For example, the parent must look after their growing children when they are close to their retirement age, and must make sure that they have enough savings for to support the household expenses. So, what is your opinion regarding this statement, Miss?
An aging society, it can cost the society. It really can, because it changes the way, the needs of the society, what is needed even in, how public transport works, or, things like that. You could have a child and kind of coach them into understanding why they need to contribute to your family unit.
Yeah.
And they could still, for philosophical reasons, decide they don't want to, or they have health issues or mental issues or run into problems in their lives, and they do not fulfill that wish that you have as a parent. Having your children late, if you had decided on doing that because you wanted to be financially stable, then I think you would have chosen to have children because you were financially stable. So even then, you cannot tell what value your property and your finances are going to have in the future. Something might happen,
Right.
you lose all of it. So I really cannot say much about that. If it's coming to what kind of economics, what it means economically, I can't comment on that either. But I feel that if you're delaying marriage for those reasons, to be stable, to, be able to afford getting married, then having children would be probably for the same reasons.
There are also couples who goes into marriage but do not want to have children.
Mhm.
What do you think is the idea of them getting married, honestly?
In Malaysia, I would say it's probably one of two things. One, family pressure, not to be single and being in a relation. I mean, not to be unmarried and being in a relationship. Two, you just want to show a commitment to each other that you are together so that it's not open-ended. I think in this society here in Malaysia, it would be very hard to find somebody who, for example, you want to be in a monogamous relationship. Monogamous meaning you're committed to each other, even if you're not married. It's the wrong word because monogamous actually implies marriage. But anyway, you're together, but you're not seeing other people, right? But how do you guarantee that? You can't even guarantee it with marriage. But with marriage, if somebody cheats on you, you have grounds to leave them. You might have laws on your side depending on the situation. So I think it's either there's something still taboo about living with someone if you're not married. And there's something about showing commitment. And I think that's why people marry even if they're not intending to have children.
So when you first entered the marriage institution, did you already had in mind to have kids, or you plan? Because I noticed that some young couples today, they love to marry and then they tell, oh, let's give us like 5-10 years. And then by the, they're on family planning. Then by the time they plan to have kids, they couldn't conceive because of the, I don't know, maybe because of the pills or stuff like that. In your case, how was that? And what is your take on the idea of delaying having kids once you are married?
I think that, it depends on the couple. And if they're happy about it, that's fine. When I got married, I personally wasn't keen on like having kids. I wasn't like, I'm getting married so I can have kids. No, right. I'm getting married to commit to this person. And in fact, even before meeting him, I was sure I would be living alone in the mountains until I was 30. And I thought that would be so great to just do whatever I want, whenever I wanted.
I'm looking at Johnny Depp's island right now. I want to live on island. Oh, Mr. Depp.
Yeah, having children, not if you mean that, maybe people delaying it for so long that they actually end up not having children, like not having a choice for some reason, like for, fertility or something like that. I'm not sure that it could be just that they become so set in their ways as a couple that they feel that having a child might spoil that for them, in which case it's another choice. If it's about infertility, they may already have been infertile from before, and family planning just didn't show it to them because they never got pregnant. So yeah. But does anybody
yeah.
Does anybody
Oh no, proceed, Miss Christina.
I was just generally gonna see whether there's anybody here who might adamantly believe that, too much change might be not so good, like too much, that people should marry as soon as they can, let's say. And we should kind of pursue that same sort of 2 to 3 children and that kind of thing. Generally, I think something that a single person who wants to focus on their studies might be worried about having to split their time to other people other than themselves. But I would be interested to hear, especially from the guys, whether they expect that or whether they don't expect that. Anyway, if there are any guys who would like to chip in and say something about, especially something like that, if you marry young, would you expect your spouse to fall into that kind of traditional role of taking care of you and expect her to give up studies or children straight away? What are the
Akram ada tak? So Miss Christina,
What do you think you expect from your wife if you marry young and she is studying? Do you expect her to give up certain things for you? I guess is the question. A conventional relationship or traditional relationship.
Yes.
Or would you, I mean, it's a leading question, isn't it? Do you think there's room for a different
Sharing shared responsibility.
let's say something like that.
Yes.
For you personally, and it's just your opinion, of course it may change. And even if you get married with that opinion, you might change your mind even then.
Your answer will decide who will marry you.
No pressure, no pressure.
Come on, Akram. You dah happy kan? Dah habis PD talk kan? Tak boleh jawab.
Okay, madam. So, let's say if I get married and then my wife still studying, of course I akan suruh dia fokus study lah. So let's say if we have kids, I akan jaga lah.
Wow.
I try to balance lah. Better to plan now lah. Kalau nak dah diam lah aku cakap. Okay, lepas tu for me kena plan lah dengan wife. Tanya dia boleh tak balance kan. Boleh if boleh I nak dia habis belajar dengan cepat lah. Sebab based on my experience, I ada kakak. My sister dia after she got married, dia baru pergi belajar. So masa belajar tu 2 semester dia defer because dia pregnant. So macam lambat lah kat situ. So tengok kalau macam tu kena planning lah nak ada anak semua lah. Saya dah tahu lah. So in the future maybe saya boleh put my work in it lah. I will try to take care of my wife, insyaAllah. So that's all from me.
Kalau saya dapat contoh saya jodoh dengan isteri yang sedang belajar, mungkin saya akan cuba faham dia. Saya tak naklah macam, saya pun tahu dia pun mungkin ada tanggungjawab kat saya, tanggungjawab sebagai isteri, tapi dalam masa sama dia ada tanggungjawab sebagai pelajar. So saya tak naklah put pressure on her ke apa ke, just habis je belajar dia kan. And if let's say macam Akram cakap kan, benda ni kena ada planning lah. So if let's say macam time tu macam tak ready ada kids, mungkin tak ada kids lah. So teruskan tanggungjawab je as pelajar sampai dia habis. And after dia belajar tu mungkin plan tu akan berubah.
Miss Christina, any question for Kayu?
Okay. If you're married to somebody, do you feel that their pursuit of education is something that is
Important.
Not just important, but provides relief for the relationship, or is something burdensome? So if she wants to be educated, wants to pursue a career, do you feel that it is a burden on your relationship or something that lightens, like supports the relationship?
Saya rasa benda tu
cannot.
Dia depends lah atas mental kita sendiri lah. Ada certain relationship, bila dia kahwin dengan someone yang belajar, mungkin dia tak boleh.
Kita tanya you. Kalau you macam mana? You okay ke tak?
Alright.
Okay kot.
So you don't want your wife to further study, sambung belajar semua, you don't want lah.
Mungkin saya akan cari jodoh yang bukan yang belajar aku. Tapi saya rasa macam kalau boleh saya nak lah isteri saya tu fokus kat saya lah. Naklah dia fokus sangat kat belajar kan. Tapi itulah. Kalau boleh lah. Tapi kalau jodoh saya dengan pelajar, orang yang belajar dan saya kerja, macam mana kan.
Tapi you nak tak isteri yang bekerja atau you nak isteri yang duduk rumah je?
Tapi mengikut ekonomi sekarang kan, madam, saya rasa dua-dua kena kerja lah. Saya pun faham lah dengan situasi sekarang kan. Macam apa yang saya tengok kat mak saya, dia suri rumah dan ayah saya kerja. So macam macam kesian lah kat mak saya tu, duduk rumah je macam tak ada apa kan. Just jaga anak kan. So saya prefer isteri saya tu kerja.
Thank you, Kayu. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, in my opinion, it's good to have a perspective from guys, because you know when we go onto social media, there's always this debate among guys' perspective with girls in marriage, and also girls' perspective debating what the guy said about marriage. So actually, I do think that our discussion, we do need questions and we do need statements from the guys' perspective, because we, with our own world, with our own thinking, we are always right. Women are always right. So we want to know the contradict of these thoughts of getting married young or getting married later, but from the guys' side. So Kayu actually, shines light on us. Oh, that's how the representative of men thinks about women continuing studies and about marrying a woman who continues studies. But we as a woman, we do hope that men will not clip our wings into things that we want to do. Like Miss Christina, how you feel when you get into marriage? You feel like your marriage is actually supporting you, which is actually the goals for us girls, to have a marriage that could actually support our dream, our goals into getting where we want and maybe getting it together,
Okay, so Miss Christina, actually we got one participant that's so excited to ask a question. Please spotlight Nur Aisyah Ahmad from 5A.
Hello everyone, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, Aini.
Hello, Aini.
Hi, Miss Christina. My name is Aini.
Hi.
So I have a question, which is, okay, before you get married, have you ever feel you are afraid of any consequences after getting married? Because for me, I'm also afraid to get married, even though I'm too old, 25 years already, but I'm still afraid. Because for myself, even though I'm 25 years old, I think I'm immature. Because if I got like in a battle, I can't handle myself. So do you ever fear or do you ever feel afraid of any consequences after you get married? That's all.
This is such an interesting question because when I was already like a teenager, I really loved literature from very young. So I was reading a lot of the classics and philosophers and stuff like that. And I just love the idea that you yourself create your life. So every choice that you make is a choice, even though you might feel that you had no choice. For example, you grow up in a very strict society and you're not allowed to ride a bicycle, okay? So you never ride a bicycle and you think you have no choice, but actually you've chosen to follow that society. Because you could have chosen to run away, find a bike and ride it if you wanted to. So every single thing that you do is a choice, whether it's a good or a bad one, or whether you felt it's like between this thing and that thing is both of the worst. So I have no choice, but actually you're still making a choice to continue with something bad or whatever. So having that mindset from very young, I felt very much that anything that happens to me in my life, I create for myself. So if I choose a bad guy without realizing, then I didn't see something. Now I feel that's, when I look back on it, I feel like now that I have children, I feel like, oh, that's a very harsh way of thinking of things, because some people are scammed and hoodwinked and people lie to them, and you just might not know that you're being lied to. So, you know, I think of my daughters and I think some horrible person can take advantage of them. But I also think, you know, I could try to warn them and they might not listen to me. So there's still personal choice where everything that you do creates your life for you. So that made me feel very empowered and in control of my life. No matter what my parents said, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, I would say, okay, they won't let me go out. Well, I always wanted to read anyway. You know, I would rationalize things for myself. And in the end, I did not want to hurt my parents because I really loved my parents. I love them so much. There was, you know, I feel like I'm very lucky that I had a great relationship with my parents. So if I was told I couldn't do anything, it didn't hurt me. But I also had this philosophy that I'm choosing to make my parents happy. Therefore, I can give up this bit of fun. And so it became okay. So when I went into my marriage, we had a very short relationship before marriage. First of all, I really didn't believe in marriage. Didn't want to have children, didn't want to look after somebody. I really thought I was independent woman, number one. I was going to be a career woman. I ended up marrying young after like a few months and not just marrying young, changing everything. I converted because I was not Muslim. So I converted into a world that I had no idea about because I'm Sabahan. Even if you're a Muslim over in Sabah, it's not the same as being Muslim here in West Malaysia, okay? So I had no idea how to be married, how to be Muslim or in a Malay society, and how to have children. And one thing that really helped me when he asked me to marry him, I called my mom and my mom said, what are you waiting for? Just marry him. What? What? So she basically said she trusted that I knew what I was doing and that if I make a mistake, it's my life. But she thought that I chose well and that I could do well and that I was already able to do it. Because if I didn't want to do it, I would not have been in this situation. So we married young, relatively young, fast, and we started a business together straight away. None of it was any of my doing. It was all about him. So from my very independent life of just doing whatever I wanted, suddenly my focus was on him, what he wanted, his business. Everything changed for me. And it was difficult. And there were times when I thought, screw it, don't need this. But the good stuff always outweighed the bad. And I also felt that we both had similar end goals and that he was intrinsically a very good person, whether we got along at certain times or not. And so if you feel that the person that you're with is a good person, I think you should trust it. As long as not like everybody's going, he's terrible, get rid of him. I think that you need to have a certain trust in yourself to be able to commit to something big like that. Not to be too afraid. You do have avenues to support yourself, to look after yourself. You can also make it so that you have support for yourself. Don't isolate yourself from your family and things like that. And even the person might even be a very good person and you still cannot make it work. Or it might even be detrimental to you both. That is just a risk that will happen in anything. So you could say that I went into it blind, just trusting that, okay lah, I made all these decisions, I'll take care of it. If something wrong happens, then it's all me. It's nothing, I was not forced into this. I will take whatever life gives to me.
Right.
And that kind of gives you this weird, foolhardy sort of like, yeah, I can face whatever's coming. And even when it's hard, you know, you'll get through it eventually.
When life gives you lemons.
Yeah.
You can make anything actually aside from lemonade.
I mean, there's a difference, like if you're being abused or if you're being hurt or if you're being extorted and stuff like that, you need to be able to acknowledge it and get yourself out of there. But if this is like matters of the heart or disappointments from family and things like that,
If it's blind.
Yeah.
communication can help with that. Standing your ground can help with that, but it comes with some kind of cost. You know, but
Miss Christina, actually, do you think which one is more important, communication or comprehension? Because when you communicate, you just communicate. You just talk and talk, and then but if the other party goes like, yeah, but still do the same thing, so it doesn't make any changes actually.
the communication must be two-way. It's not communication otherwise. If the person is not listening, then you're wasting your time. But are they not listening because they don't know how to listen? Or is it because they just are meanies? They're mean people. So, some people cannot communicate and need to be taught how to communicate. Do you want to put that effort into making that person understand you or not? So once you've decided, I don't want to waste any more time on this person who won't listen to me, then leave if you can. Everybody has avenues of ways of protecting themselves. And I think that one of the best things is to be able to recognize when something is not working. And if you have given a person so much chances and they are not reciprocating, deciding to leave is the moment where leaving happens. It's not the actual leaving. You need to decide to leave. You need to decide what you want and then follow through accordingly. So if you are not following through accordingly, then it becomes your problem as well, not just somebody else doing something to you. If you're allowing a situation to get out of hand when you can make a change, then it's also your problem. It's not just that person.
Hello, madam. Hi.
Hi.
I have one question. Actually, I'm just curious about online dating. How come someone can find their soulmate by just using online dating? Like, I mean, like, see each other face to face, just like that. What's your opinion, madam?
I don't know. I think that it's possible. I also think that we only hear one side of the story and we may not hear, we hear about them getting married, let's say, but we don't hear about what happens 5 years down the line when they have, let's say, a child with problems or they have financial problems. We don't hear that side of it. I'm sure they would be going through something. It's not just fairy tale. So I think it's possible for people to meet online safely and they just happen to find the right person. But
going along that question, what is your idea of a soulmate?
Oh, I think you can have several soulmates. If you're talking about the one that you're going to live with for the rest of your life, you might have a soulmate that you just can't stand to be in the same room because they're messy or they're loud, So there's ways of being with your soulmate that it doesn't have to follow, must be by their side all the time. I mean, I think it's quite annoying to always be by somebody's side all the time. You do need a break now and then. If you guys match, your energies match, you both like to do the same things, or you both like the same things, it doesn't have to look a certain way to other people. You might have a soulmate that you only ever talk to on the phone, or you don't talk at all, you just do things together, and that's the fun of it. You don't even talk, you just hang out together. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I can't.
Yeah, totally.
Any more questions from the floor?
So it's interesting to hear what Putra is going to say.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Always thinking about like if we don't get married, we are always like being pressured, like why haven't you been married yet?
So why do you choose not to get married? Did you choose not to get married, or you plan to marry eventually?
Just it depends, because like maybe financial status, or just finding the right person to like spend your whole life with.
That's the thing. Who was it before who said, "Oh, I'm so old, I'm 25"?
I need.
You're still babies. To be honest, I feel that it's still a young age. Even, you know, if you think you can manage your emotions on social media, sometimes you can get involved in a social media fight where you can't control your anger.
Yeah.
And you realize, you know, I mean, I'm over 40 and I've been on social media. You know, I'm crazy on social media. And it's taken a big learning curve to learn how to just walk away from arguments.
Right.
And doing that in real life is a whole other matter, because you have personal stakes. And I don't think everybody has generally that kind of maturity till at least 25, because the scope of your interactions with people are limited. It's just family, school, maybe work, and that kind of, you know, academics and stuff like that. So focusing on one person as well as living your life, I think, is quite a big commitment. And it's a different world now. And people my age, if they're asking you, when are you getting married? They're not living in this world. They should already realize that times are different, and they shouldn't be putting those, I think it's a lot of pressure, but if you can just laugh it off, please just laugh it off. I think sometimes people just don't know what to say.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay. Bring it on, baby.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Nabila, and I have a question that, okay, with the current situation right now, do you think that we as a millennials want to choose either love or financial? Since currently the economy is starting giving us the hardship, because yalah kita nak berbelanja pun it's quite, macam tadi moderator dia cakap kan. So what's your opinion about it? Do you think we have to choose love or financial? Or because certain of us probably choose love, either financial, and others probably choose love, either financial.
You mean like whole marriage because we need to improve our finance situation, or choose marriage and whatever, is it?
Yeah, something like that.
I think, Nabila, you answered your own question already. Because you said, what do you think about this? And then, because some people marry for love and some people...
Another leading question.
I really don't know what people want. Sometimes I get on social media and I think, oh, it's really a madhouse out there. But I also feel that social media is really a different world that has not, it doesn't really play out the same way in real life, in our real lives. You know, the way some people are very free to say what they want on social media, but will not do that in their real life. So, you know, it might be trendy to have certain attitudes, but in the end, when you fall in love with somebody or you become attracted to somebody, there could be tons of red flags that you don't even see. And some of them are not that bad. Some of them can be worked through, but others might, you know, risk your life. You know, there's all sorts of dangers out there that are not new. This could have happened to any young girl your age 200 years ago. In fact, more likely to be risky for certain, you know, income brackets back in the day. The only difference now is women feel more empowered or have more choices. The reality may not play out that way, but there are many realities where it does play out that way, where a woman wants education, finds a supportive husband who allows room for her in that sense. There are also lots of women who end up in a marriage they didn't expect. I would say I'm one of them. I ended up in quite a traditional, married to someone I felt is quite traditional, but it ended up being very supportive for me. So, you know, and I think that's because he has a different way of thinking and isn't just a follower himself. So I think that you can find someone like that if you know. I don't want to make promises.
Yeah, thank you.
There's millions of us, and some people might not get that. Some people might, and some people might have to settle for marriage, and some people might have to settle for being single. I think being educated is good for everybody, and how you choose to get educated and whether it affects your life, that's up to you to choose. You do have that right and that choice. So if you are in a situation where you feel pressured not to do that, but you really want it, then the cost is to leave that situation. For some people, that might mean leaving family, leaving community, leaving the country to get what they want. Other people don't want to lose their family, don't want to leave the country or the community, so they give up what they think they want. Whatever makes you happy now, whatever is the best choice for you now, because you can change it again later. You always have a choice, I think. And how you think about something can really free you or can keep you locked up. So deep down inside, everybody knows what would make them happy, or at least they know what they don't want. So follow your heart, but don't be an idiot. Yeah, use your brain.
Bring it together.
Yeah, make it work.
So thank you, Miss Christina.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Christina. Such an home and wonderful sharing. I believe that we have learned so much throughout the sharing. I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to Miss Christina, our panel speaker for today. Everyone, give a big applause for Miss Christina.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
And not to forget again, our Johnny Depp Lang. Madam Azwin.
Thank you so much, Madam, for assisting us and being helpful throughout the talks preparation. We really appreciate it. To everyone who has joined this talk, thank you very much for your time and for your attentive listening. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated. Thank you,
Okay,
everyone.
so let me say a few words.
Yes, Nazirah.
All right.
Okay.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Miss Christina for your time and for being so patient with my student. So the first time when I approached Miss Christina, she's like, "Oh, what is that?" It's like, "What topic? Oh, marriage. Wow." you know. So the Miss Christina that I know, she's always a very lovely person. She's always the go-to person if you have any problem, and she will never judge you. So I've always enjoyed my friendship and my relationship with Miss Christina throughout my life, ever since I know her since 1997. Yeah. Yeah. So she's always very happy, very positive. So I thought this topic suits her a lot, because there's no right or wrong answer. Just like what I said to you earlier, it's just something we bring for discussion. There is marrying late or marrying early. There's nothing wrong to it, as long as you know what you want, as long as you know it makes you happy. And bad decisions, can we avoid it? Well, sometimes we thought we did the right one, and then later we realized, but that's not necessarily bad decision. It's probably just something that has changed our outlook about life at a certain point of our life as we progress, right? So I couldn't think of a more positive person than Miss Christina for this topic. I was like looking through, because topic ni, Miss Christina, is so hard to find. Like, I turn here, like this person is going to say this comment, and I'm like, oh no, I can't, And Alhamdulillah, we found Miss Christina. We please give her a big round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. So before I end the session, I would like to invite Miss Christina to probably throw some words of advice to my students. Give it to them. Please.
Well, first of all, I'd also like to thank the team. They've been very gracious in preparing me for today. And to you, Azwin, for thinking of me. Because when she called me, I really was like, me? And I was very happy about it, because I love these kinds of discussions, and I do think they're important. Even though it seems like it was mostly girls today, I think having guys' input and having them listen as well is part of what makes this important too. But anyway, advice, I really don't have that much advice. I think keeping an open mind and keeping an open heart, despite the fact that it's treacherous out there and you might feel hurt at every turn and things are disappointing and stuff like that. I think having a bright attitude about things helps you keep your eye on the future and moving forward. And, don't ever stop and just drown in your emotions. Just keep going, and you can find support in all sorts of places. So I hope that, everybody finds their way, and good luck to you all.